Very good afternoon. As you all know that ocean is a very important domain, and Ministry of Earth Sciences, we deal with all 5 spheres: atmosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, cryosphere, and associated biosphere. Under that, the ocean is a very important component, and this particular decade, the Government of India has started very important milestone, as well as the what is called a Deep Ocean Mission has been initiated to understand the ocean, better understand the ocean. For that, more and more observations, so that we can have what we observe, you model them and try to go for predicting as well as protecting the ocean. So under this umbrella, I think ocean has provided a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, it is a much more challenges in terms of various hazards or disasters and other man-made activities in the ocean, especially the health of the oceans. I think it is very important that we need to protect the ocean in terms of better understanding. For that, we need to have more and more observations, both in situ as well as satellite observations, so that we can better understand. Of course, what we have understood is very little when compared to maybe today we are talking about in India, especially in the moon. We know much more than moon than the deep ocean. So it is important that we need to understand better. I think this particular UN Ocean Decade Collaborative Center for the Indian Ocean region is an important milestone for us, and we want to proactively, not only youngsters, but also all seniors and all the fellow colleagues and everybody put together so that we can contribute meaningfully for the safeguard of the ocean to understand better. So with this few initial remarks, I request maybe the next agenda, I think maybe we can introduce ourselves in the online, those who are present before that. So maybe you can,
Thank you, Chair. I would actually like to request maybe quickly we run through a round of introductions on the online participants. Enrique, can you please, I'll call the name so that it's easy. Enrique, over to you.
Hello, and good evening, everybody there. My name is Enrique Alvarez. I am the technical coordinator of the Ocean Prediction Decade Collaborative Center, and I wish you very good luck with the moon landing very soon.
Thanks, Enrique. Justin, over to you, please, Justin. You're muted, Justin.
Okay, thank you very much, Srinivas, and a warm congratulations and greeting to his Honorable Secretary Moise and also the former Secretary Nilesh. My name is Justin Alonso. I'm the Technical Secretary of ICNDO and the Regional Liaison Officer for IUC for the region. I will be speaking about necessary linkages between IUC Africa and the Decade Center in Hyderabad. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Femi, over to you, Femi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Femi De Mohamed from Gilmore in Germany, Kiel. I'm currently the chair of the Early Career Scientist Network of IOE2, and I'm very happy to be here and to discuss further with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Femi. Professor Heather Coldway, over to you, please.
Thank you so much. It's a great honour and privilege to be part of this event with such distinguished colleagues. My name's Heather Coldway. I lead the Bertarelli Foundation's Marine Science Programme, which focuses on the Indian Ocean region and is an endorsed action of the UN Decade. I'm also a professor at the University of Exeter in the UK. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather. Rear Admiral Khurshid Alam, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all the colleagues. Secretary, Ministry of Earth Sciences and UNESCO, and Dr. T. Srinivasa Kumar, and also Mr. Justin, and also the Chief of Westpac, and all other distinguished colleagues. This is Rear Admiral Khurshid Alam, and the chair of the IOCNDU. Officially, still IOCNDU exists, but it has already been. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ken, our colleague Ken is online. Ken, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to say congratulate to the INCOIS for the kickoff meeting. My name is Ken Ando, and I'm chair of IOC Westpac. Thank you very much for inviting Westpac.
Thank you, Ken. Louis, over to you, please.
Yes, good morning.
Did you hear me, Srinivas?
Yes, we heard you. We heard you, Red Miller. Thank you very much. Yeah, over to you, Louis.
Thank you. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's an honor and a privilege to be here at this inaugural event of the Decade Collaborative Centre in the Indian Ocean. My name is Louis Demine, and I'm the Data and Knowledge Management Officer, sitting within the Decade Coordination Unit at IOC UNESCO here in Paris. And I look forward to speaking to you in a few moments. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. Nick, over to you. We see good friend Nick online.
Thank you very much, dear Srivanas, and greetings to secretaries of the MOES, both present and past, friends and recent colleagues. I just want to congratulate INCOIS and India in achieving this very progressive step on behalf of the IOC's mission, both regionally and globally. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing all of the presentations today. So thanks for having me here. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Nick. In addition to all the distinguished colleagues online, we are also going to have some video. Nadia Pinadi, she is actually the head of the DCC Coastal Resilience. She's unable to join us virtually, but then she has sent her video remarks, so we'll be hearing to her shortly. And then, of course, our dear Executive Secretary of the IOC UNESCO, Vladimir, he has sent his remarks online. We'll be hearing to him soon. And then we also have remarks, a small presentation from our good friend Alison Clausen, who was also not able to be here online because they are traveling, but then they have very kindly sent their remarks online. So we'll be having, this is the panel, and then just to give a background of what we are doing today, we have a major national conference called Ocean Society of India Conference. We are having about 500 young scientists, researchers from different institutes, universities all across the country here today, assembled here at INCOIS. We had a fantastic opening session this morning, and we are having 6 parallel sessions addressing different themes of what the ocean decade is going to do. I mean, it's marine pollution and biodiversity and ecosystems, ocean observations, and so on. So we wanted to take this opportunity to actually take the decade message to all the colleagues out here. So that's a good thing. That's why we are doing this event today. It's a great opportunity for us to connect with all the colleagues sitting here. And then we are also having, I'll also like to ask, last but not the least, our former secretary, Dr. Shailesh Naik, also to introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Shailesh Naik, currently Director of National Institute of Advanced Studies, and very happy to be here, seeing a lot of old friends in this. I'm very happy to join. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Myself, Uday Bhaskar. I'm heading the Ocean Data Management Division here in INCOIS, and I'm also taking care of the capacity building activities under ITCU. Very happy to be associated with DCC IOR, where we are going to go ahead with the 10 challenges that we can contribute to the Indian Ocean region. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I extend my warm welcome to all the esteemed guests. Dr. Vladimir Rabinin, the Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanic Commission, IOC at UNESCO, will now share his opening remarks. Unfortunately, he is unable to attend in person and has shared his message. We will now watch the recording.
Dr. Ravichandran, Secretary, Ministry of Earth Sciences, Dr. Srinivas Kumar Tumala, the Director of INCOIS, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, all courtesies observed. And let me greet you on behalf of IUC of UNESCO, the home of ocean sciences in the United Nations system, at the inauguration of the Decade Collaborative Center for the Indian Ocean region. It's a great honor for me to speak after Dr. Ravichandran, and also it's a great pleasure to observe that we are moving forward with the Decade Collaborative Center. I would like to really thank INCOIS and the Ministry of Earth Sciences for hosting this center and for moving forward with its operations, including the website, including the logo. And indeed, you know, I hope very much that this center will be a cornerstone and basically cementing the whole work of the decade, and also IUC in the Indian Ocean region. We have a lot in the region, indeed. We have the decade moving forward. We have recently decided that we will progress the regional committee for the central part of the Indian Ocean into a subcommission. We still work very actively, and this is a massive undertaking, the Indian Ocean Expedition 2. There is Indian Ocean Goose. There is a lot of work that is happening in the Indian Ocean. I also notice presence of Heather Coldway in the region. So this is beyond IUC, that there is very rich work in the Indian Ocean region. And also, I always remember my very strong impression about the quality and the scale of research in the Indian Ocean that was presented during the most recent Indian Ocean Science Conference. So what we are trying to do really here is to develop the science that is needed to manage the ocean sustainably. The Indian Ocean is very complicated. Some people say this is the least studied ocean basin in the world. I wouldn't agree with this, but at the same time, the challenges are really multiple. And indeed, the combination of climate change, monsoon variability, predictability of monsoons, how this can work in the Indian Ocean region, interaction between ocean and atmosphere, how to find technological solutions. This is, I think, a very important and very challenging scientific task. So I think we need to develop two sides of the system, the governmental system and also the scientific support. And this, hopefully, will be also developing the science policy interface for all countries in the region. It's great that INCOIS is hosting the Decade Collaborative Center. And I hope very much that there will be two very strong centers of growth of digital oceanography, but not just oceanography confined to the ocean, but also oceanography as a part of the Earth system, along with the Mercator. You know, Mercator is leading the data assimilation and prediction work, and I think that this Decade Collaborative Center can be a very strong cornerstone for the capacity development in those parts of the ocean sciences. Moving from observations to the data assimilation, conducting prediction experiments, generating digital twin of the ocean, of the Indian Ocean, as part of the digital twin of the ocean. So that definitely requires facilitation, and I hope that Decade Collaborative Center, and I know the commitment of INCOIS in India in that sense. So in that sense, I think we're making a very strong move towards creating basically a very strong seed for further development of ocean sciences of practical orientation in the Indian Ocean. So what we need to do, and I think this meeting is constructed in such a way that we're going to take stock of experiences, challenges, and I would like to say that I have personal commitment to continue working with you, and I think that it will be a great thing if we can just design for Decade Collaborative Center, and Decade being our vehicle for moving forward oceanography towards the future and turning it into sustainable ocean planning capacity. And so what is going to happen today is I think, very promising, and I wish you very good discussions. And once again, I thank MOIS, I thank India, I thank INCOIS for hosting the center, and wishing the center all the success that I think it will come because of the quality of the people that work on this matter, and also the need to have the center and also support from IOC and the countries in the region. All the best, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you once again from IOC of UNESCO.
On behalf of INCOIS, I thank Dr. Vladimir Ryabinin. Dr. Alison Clausen, Program Specialist at the IOC UNESCO, will now enlighten us on UN Ocean Decade, its challenges and implementation plan. Dr. Allison expressed her wishes to DCC IOR. We shall now watch the pre-recorded message.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear colleagues. It's a pleasure for me to be able to present to you today. I wish I could be there with you in person, but unfortunately it's not possible due to conflicting travel schedules. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alison Clausen and I am the Deputy Coordinator of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And as I said, I'm thrilled to be here today presenting on the Ocean Decade at this launch of the Indian Ocean Decade Collaborative Centre. First of all, before I start, a huge thank you to all the team at INCOIS, not only for this event, but of course for standing up the Decade Collaborative Centre. As you'll see throughout this presentation, these different Decade Collaborative Centres are such an essential part of being able to achieve what we want to achieve in the Ocean Decade, and partners like INCOIS are really critical to making sure that that can happen. So I've got a few slides that I wanted to present to you today. First of all, starting off with why an Ocean Decade. Hopefully if you're here today at this conference and at this event listening to this, you've got a pretty good idea why we decided to put in place the Ocean Decade. But just to take us back a few years, in 2016, 2017, as the Sustainable Development Goals were being defined, as the indicators and targets were being defined, as different other global and regional policy frameworks were emerging around climate, around food security, around biodiversity, there was growing recognition and growing understanding that the ocean was really central to achieving all of these global aspirations, all of these regional aspirations. But at the time also there was growing concern and growing recognition that there was so much about the ocean that we didn't know. There were really critical knowledge gaps, critical science gaps. So the Intergovernmental Commission, Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO that I work for, and which is the coordinating agency now of the Ocean Decade, put a proposal to the United Nations General Assembly to declare 2021 to 2030 the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. After long negotiations, the UN General Assembly agreed to this, and the decade commenced in 2021 and is being implemented, as I said, by IOC of UNESCO. So what is the decade all about? On the left-hand side, you can see the Decade Action Framework, which tries to sum up fairly succinctly how the decade is structured, if you like. The vision of the Ocean Decade is the science we need for the ocean we want. The Ocean Decade has a very broad definition of ocean science. It includes all types of knowledge systems. It includes natural science, physical science, social science, economic, political science. We really have a very holistic view of what ocean science is, because all these different knowledge and science disciplines are required to achieve the ocean we want. And the mission of the decade is transformative ocean science solutions for sustainable development, so very much solutions oriented, and science and knowledge that connects people and our ocean and really aims to ignite a paradigm shift in the way that institutions, individuals, governments treat and relate to and make decisions about the ocean. So the Decade Action Framework on the left-hand side, you can see starting from the bottom, the decade is really built on hundreds of different decade actions, and I'll give you some figures about where we're up to currently with that at the moment. Decade actions are global or regional programs, shorter-term projects, different contributions of in-kind or financial resources, as well as one-off decade activities. And all of these decade actions are structured around one or more 10 Ocean Decade challenges. And you can see these in the boxes on the right-hand side. These 10 challenges are broadly broken into knowledge and solutions challenges around marine pollution, ecosystem restoration, sustainable blue food, sustainable ocean economy, and the ocean climate nexus. There are also infrastructure challenges around observations, around data, around resilience, including nature-based solutions. And then there are foundational challenges around capacity development and behaviour change, including cultural values of the ocean and ocean literacy. So all these decade actions collectively contribute to one or more of these decade challenges to really achieve the outcomes that we want for the ocean and thus contribute to the critical global and policy frameworks. Currently, as of June in the Ocean Decade, we have 48 global programs. We have over 250 projects. We have tens of different contributions, as well as numerous different decade activities. These decade actions are solicited through calls for decade actions. The current call for decade actions number 5, which is focusing on marine pollution and ecosystem management, is actually closing in a couple of days. And call for decade actions number 6 will open on the 15th of October, and that will address a range of different themes. So look out for that if you're interested in submitting a decade action and becoming part of the decade. In addition to the decade actions, we have a whole governance and coordination structure, and I'll come to that in a minute because that's where the Decade Collaborative Centre that INCOIS is running in the Indian Ocean that we're launching today is really forming a critical part of that. We also have national decade committees, which we'll talk about, and we have a significant reach across social media and different communications channels. So of course, make sure you are subscribed to all our channels to get the most regular updates on what's happening in the decade. But I did want to talk to you a little bit more about the regional and thematic decentralized coordination of the decade. As I mentioned, the IOC of UNESCO is the global coordinator of the decade. We have the Decade Coordination Unit, which is based here in Paris, but we couldn't do it without partners such as INCOIS, who really have come and stood up and said, we want to be part of the decade and we want to support with decentralized coordination. So decentralized coordination is in the form of decade coordination offices or decade collaborative centres that have a regional or thematic focus. And you can see on the left-hand side here that the Indian Ocean Decade Collaborative Centre is really one of a set of emerging centres, including centres in the Northeast Pacific, the Southern Ocean, the West Pacific, the Southern Ocean and the South Pacific, which will be launched in just a couple of weeks' time. All of these regional centres work together, and they also interact with the thematic decade coordination offices and decade collaborative centres that you can see on the right-hand side around Ocean Climate Nexus, data sharing, observations, and there'll be some others coming online. So this whole network of decade collaborative centres and decade coordination offices play crucial roles in coordinating existing decade actions, catalysing new actions, helping us undertake gap analysis and setting priorities for where we need to fill the gaps in ocean science and ocean knowledge. They also help with resource mobilisation, communications and outreach, and of course monitoring and reporting so that we can track the story of the Ocean Decade and really demonstrate the impact and the benefits. And they work very closely with the Decade Coordination Unit. And one of the reasons that they're so important, that in addition to the programs and the projects and the actions that are being undertaken, the decade is also a place, a home, a framework for a growing ecosystem of societal actors. If we're going to undertake the transformative ocean science that we want to achieve in the decade, we need the scientific community, obviously, but we also need a whole range of other actors and stakeholders, including government, philanthropy, NGOs, industry, investors, Indigenous and local knowledge holders. The list goes on. You can see many of them listed here. And so the decade provides a framework for these different actors to come together around collective impact, around collective action. And the Decade Collaborative Centres are essential places for these actors to come together. For example, actors that are working in the Indian Ocean region can use and work with the Decade Collaborative Centre within INCOIS to really find other partners and make connections with actors that they may not necessarily be connected with. And why is that so important? It's so important because the Ocean Decade works across the entire science policy society interface. As I mentioned at the outset, it is not about just doing science for science sake. It is about solutions-oriented science. It is about science that is taken up, that is used, that is communicated. And you need all of the actors in the room to co-design that science and to ensure that the knowledge and the science works along the interface from science to policy to society. And so again, the Decade Collaborative Centres have an essential role in identifying where some of the needs are, where some of the gaps are, and then really looking at how they can convene different actors to come together in the Decade actions and other initiatives through the decade to work across the science policy society interface. The Decade Collaborative Centres also work very strongly with national partners. So we have a growing network of national Decade committees that you can see on the map here, including some that are emerging in the Indian Ocean region, and we hope there'll be many more that are coming online in coming months and years with the support of the Decade Collaborative Centre. And these national Decade committees are really essential for taking that regional ambition, taking that thematic ambition across the science policy society interface and translating it to national priorities. So that's another key role that the Decade Collaborative Centres play. So you can see that the team at INCOIS has quite a challenge ahead of them. We have every faith and confidence that they're going to be able to rise magnificently to that challenge. It is really, as I said, a crucial part of the overall governance and coordination structure for the Ocean Decade and for the Ocean Decade community. And I will finish off with some updates on where we are at with the planning for the first in-person convening of the full Ocean Decade community. Some of you will remember that there was an Ocean Decade kickoff that was an online event because of the COVID pandemic that was hosted by Germany. We now have planning well underway for the 2024 Ocean Decade Conference, which is a follow-on from the kick-off conference, and which will be the first in-person convening of the entire Ocean Decade community. And this will be held in Barcelona, Spain, from the 10th to 12th of April. We hope that there'll be very strong regional engagement. There is some travel support that will be available. Pre-registration for the conference is currently open, as are calls for applications for satellite events. You can see the QR code here. And this conference is really going to be an extremely important moment to take stock of where we're up to in the decade, but also set the ambition for the coming 6 to 7 years. And my colleague Louis Deman will talk about this in a little bit more detail when he's on the panel later on today. But we have commenced a process that we're calling the Vision 2030 process, which Srinivas, the director of INCOIS, is actually one of the co-chairs of this process, which is looking at all of the Ocean Decade challenges in turn and saying, where do we want to be by 2030? What is the strategic ambition for this challenge? And how do we make sure that we collectively achieve this ambition over the next 6 to 7 years? And so the results of this Vision 2030 process will be presented at the 2024 Ocean Decade Conference. They'll be workshopped, they'll be dialogued, so that we as an Ocean Decade community walk away from that conference not only having networked and made new partnerships and initiated new ideas and heard new announcements and commitments, but that we also all walk away with a really clear common vision of where we would like to go with the Ocean Decade to 2030 as a result of this 2030 process. So have a look at the webpage on the conference, pre-register for the conference, think about satellite events, and we hope to see many of you there in Barcelona next year, which will be a critical moment for the Ocean Decade community. Anyway, I will leave it there, but I wish you all a wonderful conference. Thank you again for your attention and for listening to me. I know it's a very full program, and I wish INCOIS best of luck, and we really look forward to working with Srinivas and the whole team with the Decade Collaborative Centre over coming months and years. Thank you very much.
On behalf of INCOIS, I extend my gratitude to Dr. Alison Clausen for that detailed presentation on UN Ocean Decade. The UN Ocean Decade Collaborative Center for the Indian Ocean Region, DCC-IOR, embodies a new era of oceanic collaboration. I invite our director, Dr. Srinivasa Kumar, to present the significance and scope of DCC-IOR.
Thank you, Ashwati. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all colleagues. I tried to put together this presentation. It was a bit more elaborate than I actually expected because we had several new colleagues we have in the room who have been probably listening to the IOR DCC or UN Decade for that matter for the first time. But then after Vladimir's speech and then Alison's detailed talk, I think I'll try to actually skip through a few slides just to make sure that I'm not repeating what has already been spoken. Especially this is something I would like to skip. Alison spoke about what is the UN decade, what are the decade objectives, challenges, and the outcomes and so on. She also spoke about the decade actions. So the IOR DCC that we are launching today is one of the decade contributions, which will actually be operating in the Indian Ocean region with INCOIS. So this is where in the whole scope of the implementation, where the DCC IOR sits. So within all these coordination structures that you see there, the green boxes, that's where the decade collaborative centers sit. Others, the decade we have heard about. We'll be hearing a bit more from other colleagues on the other DCCs, say for example, working on the ocean prediction, coastal resilience, and so on. So this is what the DCIOR, this is where it sits. And then there is also other thing that Alison mentioned about the national decade committees. So I'd like to also mention here that India is one of the very early countries that have set up a national decade coordination committee. Way back in February 2021, we had a couple of meetings, and then it is chaired by the Secretary Ministry of Earth Sciences, and then which has members from all the other leading oceanographic institutions in the country. Through this, we have been active. We have been propagating this under the auspices of this NDCC is how we prepared, the INCOIS prepared the bid initially against call for actions for the IOR DCC. And then we also participate regularly in the NDC meetings, contribute to the UN Ocean Decade NDC Best Practices Manual. And under the auspices of this committee, we actually also do a lot of other national activities related to capacity building, activities like beach cleanups, student visits, popular lectures, and so on. And we are right now trying to reconfigure the committee a bit more to kind of imbibe the Ocean Decade spirit by inclusion of further diverse stakeholders into the NDC. And this is something which we will report in the further meetings of the global NDCs when we have the next time around. So already said that IOR DCC is a regional kind of activity. It's not the thematic focus, but it gives a regional focus which actually works across all the Ocean Decade challenges. Without getting into too much of detail, just why the Indian Ocean is very important, because there are 50 nations around, and then huge populations which are dependent on, there are several societal needs, because these countries are rapidly developing economies with actually growth of population, and then there's a lot of dependence on there are mostly agrarian societies with dependent on agriculture, which are again dependent on monsoons, which are again dependent on what happens in the ocean. So it's so very important. Then you have marine fisheries, weather conditions, and then the hazards which are actually so very common in the region, especially the cyclone, storm surges. We had the big tsunami and so on and so forth. Then we also have several science drivers actually, in the Indian Ocean region, like oxygen minimum zones, the upwelling and subduction zones, the major heat flux components, and the tropical modes, weather modes, and the ocean modes like the Indian Ocean Dipole and so on. So these are all some things that give us a lot of, a platform where all of us need to work together actually under the decade framework. And INCOIS, of course, works, most of you know the work of INCOIS. We work on the end-to-end value chain, starting right from observations to data to predictions. And these predictions could be used both for operational services as well as for the assessment, like marine policy. We also do a lot of research. So that's the kind of strength, because the decade collaborative centers are supposed to bring in some kind of expertise to the table. And then this is what INCOIS is involved with nationally. And then we also have been working globally as part of the IOC and several other international frameworks. Like, for example, we host the Category 2 Center under UNESCO called the ITCO, which is the International Training Center for Operational Oceanography, which several of you know, which actually works on building capacities within the region. We host training programs and so on.
We work, of course, on the tsunamis. We are one of the tsunami service provider. We are the National Oceanographic Data Center. We work on the data aspects, the IOD program, and so on and so forth. We also work in the region with other bodies like the GOOS Regional Alliances, sub-commissions like the IOC Indio, the Westpac, IOC Africa, and so on. So there are already strong links that we have and strong programs within the region that we can actually leverage to actually bring in connections as part of the IOR DCC. So that's what this slide is saying. So we can kind of leverage all this and then try to bring several stakeholders, old and new, across genders, across generations, to actually work on the Ocean Decade activities. So we will work on the scientific planning and coordination, identification of collaboration opportunities and communications, awareness rising, technical and scientific capacities, enhancing them, that is building capacities of stakeholders in the region. Then we also have within the our work plan to actually organize training programs, at least one regionally, and then also workshops, regional workshops to bring across several stakeholders and then discuss areas where we can work on. These are some things we intend to do, and then we have started actually mapping various decade actions. We are working with the DCU to kind of try to map what are the actions in the region which have a Indian Ocean focus. It could be global program that have an Indian Ocean focus, or programs that have been proposed in the Indian Ocean region. Like for example, we have Bertrelli Foundation's Marine Science Program. Heather is representing, he's here in the panel today. We'll hear more from her. We have actually started having discussions with Heather on how we can actually facilitate some of the work that they're doing in the Indian Ocean region. And there are several other actions that have been listed. A few of the 250 actions that Alison has mentioned where we can work on. I'd also introduce here quickly the team. Since we were recognized as an IOR DCC, we have actually completed the recruitment and positioning of the staff. Last June, when we were at the IOC, those are the pictures that you see there, where we actually exchanged the letter of intent, that's the agreement between IOC and INCOIS to actually start the activities in the presence of our secretary. And then the staff now, right now, you see the Dr. Uday Bhaskar there, Dr. Nagaraj Kumar, and then Dr. Rao, whom you have been, several of you have been already been interacting with, and then Dr. Nimit. So you are either already in touch with these people, or you'll be hearing more from them very soon. Since endorsement, we have done several programs since early this year. We participate in the Decade meetings. We have done several training programs. We have actually endorsed Decade Action, which is Decade IO, which actually deals with the ECOPS, capacity building through ECOPS. We have actually participated in, for example, say NF POGO regional training program in Bangladesh, and so on. There are several activities, and then of course very important thing is actually our engagement with the DCC Ocean Predict, and also with the DCC Coastal Resilience, where we are working with Nadia's team on actually the Ocean Decade 2030 vision, which is the Working Group 6, that is increasing community resilience to ocean hazard, which is co-chaired by me and Nadia. And of course on the ocean prediction, we have been part of the kickoff by the Mercator International. We'll be hearing more from Enrique on this. We also facilitated a regional program on the Indian seas. And last slide, moving forward, we have several plans. We build connections with the primary, secondary attachments. We have started that process. We'll be doing the first capacity development event in September. We also plan to set up the GB quickly, and then we also will have a GB meeting. It will be an international governing board headed by the chairman, Secretary Dr. Ravichandran. We are planning workshops and trainings, and then we are planning to host a Indian Ocean Regional Decade Conference early next year, which is actually something our secretary will talk during his remarks. So with that, I conclude, and thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, sir. We now come to a pivotal moment of the evening, the release of the DCC IOR logo and website. I invite Dr. M. Ravichandran, Secretary MOES, to release the logo and website. logo and website. With these events, we conclude the first segment of the launch of the DCC IOR. We will now have a panel discussion on Ocean Decade initiatives in the Indian Ocean region. I request Dr. M. Ravichandran to take over and chair the session.
Very good afternoon once again. As you all know that this panel discussion consists of both in-person and some from online. It is a very difficult task to coordinate and other things. Of course, when you talk about Indian Ocean, it is a uniqueness, it's many areas in uniqueness. Before maybe 2 decades ago, the Indian Ocean was under-observed. There is not much observations in the Indian Ocean, so understanding is a difficulty and other things. Of course, now we are fortunate to have the Indian Ocean is no more under-observed. We are having plenty of observation now, not only in situ observations, but also in the remote sensing observations. And this year particularly very important in 3 aspects, especially we have rebuilt most of the in situ observation in the Indian Ocean, and also we have recently launched the OceanSat-3 for remote sensing of ocean color and temperature and winds. And also we have this year is a 25th year for the INCAI's existence. So 25 years of INCAI's services. When you talk about various Ocean Decade objectives, of course there are, as already pointed out, there are about 10 challenges as well as there are 7 outcomes. And these 10 challenges is very need of the hour. It is not only to utilize the ocean resources, but also to save and health of the ocean to preserve for the future generation. Of course, one of the prime objective or prime outcomes in this particular decade of this outcome is, of course, the Ocean Predict. When you talk about Ocean Predict, we require the fundamental is ocean observations. So the observation has to be translated to data. Data has been again translated to information, and then information to knowledge, and knowledge to services. And the services will come only if you understand properly and model them and predict. So it is a chain of events, and it is operational oceanography is an important picture. In that aspect, I see that one of the important person here, I think Enric is there. So he is mainly leading in this Ocean Predict aspect of the DCC, and he will be just leading various components of the ocean prediction, especially I'm sure it is not only for model prediction, but also maybe some of the ocean system simulation, OSE, and other observation where we need to observe, where we need to understand more, as well as in the future scenario of various time scales in space. I'm very happy that many panelists are there. So I will ask for each panelist only 1 or 2 questions specific, so that if they share their ideas especially in the decade DCC purpose. So it will be nice to have our own discussion as well as to enrich our knowledge, but also the many youngsters are here so that they can take it forward, not only for this decade, in the next decade. So the first I would like to request Enrique is one of the important topic is, you know that you already have a regional team that has been placed for the Indian Ocean region, and what are the next steps, or what is the way forward in the coming years or decade, in these decades? Enrique?
You're muted, Enrique. Can you please unmute yourself?
I'm muted.
You're audible now.
Okay. So I was saying that thank you for the nice introduction, and I was mentioning that we have already started to work with this regional team. In fact, what we are doing as a very first step is mapping the current status of ocean forecasting, and the participation of the regional team on India and seas is very important to map in this area. Next step will be, and we are also starting with that, on the detection of gaps, what we need in the region to move ocean forecasting, let's say, to a new level, to a different scenario. And we are all doing all this in the framework of an architecture design. We are working to propose a blueprint for an ocean future architecture for ocean forecasting that is going to be developed during the decade, and it will be based on tools, standards, and best practices, and will allow us to deliver as one, and will allow that the centers around the world will be capable of implementing and maintaining operational forecasting services in a much more efficient and practical way. So you have to consider that we are starting also now our activities. We are about to launch the tools in our web page. These tools will be critical for the collaboration with the Indian DCC to identify our community, inviting not only scientists, but also users and others to create a detailed map of ocean forecasting activities, including downstream services, and to activate a forum to enable the dialogue in the region. So it is obvious that with all these activities in mind, we have to integrate very closely with the DCC in the Indian Ocean region. This is absolutely mandatory, and this is why this meeting is so relevant and important for me.
Okay.
Additionally,
maybe I also want to know that what do you think about our climate uncertainties, how we can reduce these uncertainties in our forecasting, especially what is the available data resources, as well as what is that more required to reduce the uncertainties, climate uncertainties especially?
Okay, to reduce climate uncertainties, we need to, first of all, understand better our climate system. To understand better our climate system is basically based on our knowledge on the actual situation today on the evolution of the climate. And this depends very much on two legs. We only have two tools to understand this. One is the numerical modeling, and the other one is the measuring, is the observation systems. So it's very, very relevant that we improve our observation systems in our region, and I guess that India is not an exception at all. And I hope that the India DCC will be fundamental in this endeavor. So we have not to forget that our oceans are still quite undersampled, and one of the outcomes of the DCC for India region should be to mitigate this situation. We deeply need this to better monitor and understand our climate system and to mitigate the effect of anthropogenic changes we are introducing.
Yes, obviously, it is, observation is the key for that. Thank you, Enrique. So now I request Dr. Luis. Of course, you all know that the observation as well as the data is important for the various aspects of the decade of the what is the decade DCC. Of course, what are the initiatives and what are the framework? Various framework it has been outlined, and it is not only limited to particular working group or many other capacity building development and other aspects. I just now, I think Enrique has mentioned about the data requirements as well as more and more observations to reduce the uncertainties, and how we are planning to address those. Is there any novel platforms or the existing platforms to strengthen, or the new technology to monitor better way? So can you throw some light on that aspect, Luis?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much. And again, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity to speak at this inaugural event for the Indian Ocean DCC. So of course, I'm the Data and Knowledge Management Officer, so I will give a data, information, and knowledge flavor to my answer. And there's a couple of initiatives that I would like to highlight in response to your question. The first one is that we have recently set up 2 new decade collaborative centers that are going to work very closely with the Ocean Prediction DCC that Enrique talked about. One of them is a decade coordination office for ocean observing, which is set up by Goose, and a DCO for ocean data sharing, which is set up by UNESCO's IOD project office. So these will help to coordinate the decade actions around challenges 7 and 8, and they will need to work very closely with the Indian Ocean DCC to gather feedback on needs, on data gaps, on challenges, and of course also on best practices. And as I mentioned before, they will work closely with the Ocean Prediction DTC because with 3 of them, we now have a coordinated approach all the way from the observations, in other words, the upstream part of the value chain, all the way down to the end user and the decision maker, which is the downstream. So that's one first element I think the DTC really support. The second element I want to highlight is the Ocean Decade Data and Information Strategy, which was published in May this year and is available online, is a critical step in this, a critical milestone in the Decade Implementation Plan. So I will share the links to that. And this strategy was developed by the Decade's Data Coordination Group, which Dr. Uday Bhaskar from INCOIS was a member, and salute him here. And it established a vision for achieving, by 2030, a trusted, inclusive, and interconnected ocean data and information ecosystem, right? That is actively used in decision-making to support the sustainable ocean management. And it has 5 strategic objectives that are focused around the FAIR principles, around trust and attribution of data, and also an objective around how do we expand, empower, and mobilize global communities to advance and maintain this digital ecosystem. So the next step of this strategy is to come up with a clear action plan to implement it. And this is the work of the Data Strategy Implementation Group, of which, again, INCOIS has one of its experts participating, Dr. Venkat Shesiredin.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, quickly, of course, you know that the data volumes, both the in situ as well as remote sensing, has plenty. Now the volumes are so much. Is there any plan for the youngsters or especially capacity building initiative to handle the large volume of data to quickly analyze and understand better? You have any plan to have some tools to analyze large volume of data?
Well, I think indeed there's a growing number of sources of data, and the issue that we hear from the scientific community is that that's still very scattered. In other words, it's difficult for scientists, first of all, to find what kind of data is out there, to then access it, and then to use it, and for it to be interoperable, to use it easily. So the data strategy really is going to focus on that, and we haven't come up with the solutions yet. That's what the action plan is all about. But definitely it will involve the development of automated tools. It will involve capacity development, so on and so forth. And I think the other aspect of it is in addressing the data gaps, we often think about, well, we need to go out there and capture more data, more observations, make more observations. And that's obviously extremely true. But we also need to look at how can we unlock existing data sets that are today maybe invisible to the scientific community because they're in somebody's hard drive somewhere and so on. And that's also the work that IOC UNESCO is working with the corporate private industry to look at how we can try to unlock some of the huge data sets that they currently own and make those publicly available.
Thank you, Dr. Luis. Now next I requested Dr. Femi. Of course, you have any plan for, especially for young ocean professionals? Do you have any specific agenda for this decade of the ocean? Anything specific for young professionals? Dr. Femi?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I would like to, of course, thank you all for giving the voice to an ECOP as myself for this amazing inaugural event. Of course, we've heard about capacity development, and we all acknowledge now how important it is in enhancing our skills, knowledge, abilities, and competencies. I mean, this ongoing learning and growth is very essential now in today's dynamic and competitive job market. And I would like to emphasize that capacity building goes a bit beyond the traditional education and training, as it also focuses on a more holistic development to ensure that us as ECOPs are well equipped to tackle various work challenges. And very key elements to these are, of course, problem solving and critical thinking, ethical and professional behavior, communication skills, and adaptability and resilience. So this combination of skills, like I mentioned, can be seen as a more holistic development and ensure that ECOPs are well equipped to contribute meaningfully to understanding, conserving, and also utilizing the oceans. And this is kind of in line with promoting the ocean sustainability for the ocean that we want.
And how is this early career network that you lead is placed to make the connection with the ocean decade actions to fulfill the capacity building gaps in Indian Ocean region?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. And I'm very happy and proud on behalf of the whole Early Career Scientist Network team to mention to you all that in July of this year, we have kickstarted a monthly seminar series, which is called Ocean Insights, which is specifically designed for early career scientists as myself and others in the field of marine science, which are focusing mostly on the Indian Ocean research. And through this, we are providing a platform for early career scientists to broaden their knowledge on the Indian Ocean and also to connect with other ECOP as well as established scientists for future collaboration. And having said that, secondly, I would like to point out that we have a UN Ocean Decade endorsed project called Devising Early Career Capacity Development in the Indian Ocean, Decade IO, as mentioned by Dr. Srinivasa Kumar earlier, which is an initiative in collaboration with DCC IOR. And the lead person for this project is Dr. Nimit Kumar at INCOIS, and it falls on the Challenge 9 of Decade Action, which is to ensure comprehensive capacity development and equitable access to data, information, knowledge, and technology. So this is a 5-year project where we propose to conduct 2 trainings per year, where early career scientists are not only students, but also will serve as faculties, along with other established scientists. So this will help to nurture their metamorphosis from a learner to a tutor. And through this project, we will promote knowledge, networking, and awareness about the Indian Ocean and the immediate necessity for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals in line with capacity development.
Thank you, Dr. Femi. I request next to Professor Heather. You heard about the different voices from the panelists. Please tell us know how your decade action would fit into this jigsaw.
Well, that's a small question when we think about the science that we're covering. I think the first thing is that the field of marine science is huge. And when we think about how we apply that to sustainable development, it becomes an even bigger challenge. So I think how I fit into the jigsaw is what we've been doing on a small scale with our marine science program. And that is how we bring different disciplines of marine science together. So whether that's social science, genetics, oceanography, physics, biology, ecology, all of those elements we need to bring together to find rapid solutions during this decade to actually make impact for the ocean, its biodiversity, and for the people who depend on it. So I think the main insight is the work that we do looking at things like mobile species, seabirds, cetaceans, sharks, manta rays, and so on. These don't recognize national borders or boundaries. Fish don't have passports. So we need to think how we can work collaboratively to protect species like these that move across at an oceanic level. And second, there are many threats that are also operating at an ocean basin and indeed a global level. And the marine science program that I lead for the Bertarelli Foundation is trying to address some of those, whether that's climate change, illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing, or plastic pollution. So I do this at a scale that involves many regional partners and many scientists, particularly early career. But obviously, I would hope that the opportunity by the launch today of this of the Decade Collaborative Centre would allow some opportunities to build on this and to scale it up. We don't have much time. We know that from the science that we have. So using the decade to make impact is a huge opportunity and a very exciting one at the level of the Indian Ocean.
Do you have any thoughts or plans to work with the DCC IOR?
I think to highlight one area and building on the previous panelist is that thinking about the early career scientists. Firstly, we know that marine science capacity isn't equally distributed in terms of opportunity and resourcing and funding. So while India is a real shining star, if you look across the whole Indian Ocean region, many of the countries that depend on the marine science to inform the right management and policy decisions don't necessarily have that national capacity or infrastructure. So I see a huge opportunity through the Decade Collaborative Centre to be able to build on this work and provide greater equity and opportunities for marine science going forwards. I think also there's about communications. Our programme has worked with journalists across the Indian Ocean region to look at about how we increase awareness and communicate ocean issues to a much wider audience. We have a great tendency to talk to ourselves, and we need to expand outwards to think about how we bring new audiences to understand the importance, the wonder and the passion that we all have for marine science, but to bring that to a far greater audience. And then finally, many of the issues for management are connected. So some work that I've done with my colleague Nick Tadamo shows how connected coral reefs are in the central Indian Ocean to those in the west. And similarly, if we look at tropical island systems in the Indian Ocean, the land is connected to the sea. So healthy islands means healthy coral reefs. So bringing together these different disciplines across the region gives us great opportunity to do some amazing science that makes impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Heather. So next I request, maybe I call upon Rear Admiral Khurshid Alam. First of all, congratulations for the newest IOC subcommission, IOC Indio, and you have single-handedly, with a lot of enthusiastic approach, you have made a reality. And what are your immediate priorities to head on the next year or two under this IOC subcommission as well as the DCC, IOR?
Thank you, sir. Do you hear me, sir?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me also, congratulate all the distinguished colleagues who are participating today and who are sitting with you for our combined efforts to, in fact, upgrade the Indian Ocean Regional Committee to a subcommission. Without each and everyone's help, the task would have been very difficult. We have actually, as you know, worked for almost 2 years, held almost 9 meetings in between to upgrade this subcommission. Now that has been done on the 29th of June. So also my congratulations to all of you, sir, including yourself and Dr. Srinivas, and also Ahanjo and all others who were involved in the process. Now, as you know, I do welcome all the coastal countries, because there is another hurdle is remaining, because once the letter is out, all the coastal countries should join as members of the ISNDO subcommission. So through you today, this platform, may I request all the coastal countries of the Indian Ocean areas to, consider joining at a very priority time so that we can start some collaborative efforts in the Indian Ocean this year. Let me also assure you, sir, that we are definitely trying to foster collaborative initiatives as you are doing, that is addressing the pressing challenges in the Indian Ocean region. Marine scientific research could be one of them, data collection to enhance our understanding on ocean dynamics and promoting sustainable maritime practices to ensure the preservation of marine ecosystem, as somebody was telling about the coral reefs of the Indian Ocean, and facilitating capacity building programs, which we actually need. Most of the 15 to 19 countries we have, in fact, it's only India which is actually providing us the capacity building, help and assistance as we need. But we need to probably expand these facilities in the years to come. And we also need to strengthen our, partnerships programs with both India, the Indian academia and other countries in the region, and also private sector industries and civil society to create a comprehensive framework for decision making. So in fact, by privatizing this, we can probably have a more resilient, equitable, and prosperous future for the Indian Ocean. I know these are tall talks, but I can assure you, sir, that with your help and with the help of all your renowned institutes and scientists you have in India, I think all of us in the region would be greatly benefited, and probably we can also move forward. And for your second part of the question, as you said, let me also congratulate you on this Decade Collaboration Center being set up or open today. This will actually play a pivotal role in the region, because I don't think the sort of expertise you have developed in the area can be actually shared equally to all others among the diverse regional countries within the Indian Ocean region. And this center, I believe, sir, can serve as a vital, center for collaboration, enabling the exchanges of insights, data access from these for various scientific works we need to do. By fostering information sharing, resource consolidation, and capacity building initiative, the DCCIOR can act as an unifying force, enhancing the coherence and effectiveness of regional efforts towards a sustainable and prosperous future under your direct leadership, sir. We believe that we all can master our resources together and then look forward to working hand in hand with this center, as well as with you personally, sir, and with each and every one of you for the benefit and for the works we need to do for the Indian Ocean. There is no doubt, sir, the Indian Ocean is the least researched, because if you even see the diagram of the Global Research Center, many of the countries in the Indian Ocean is still in white. In the white means there is hardly any research. Bangladesh falls in one of them. Of course, India is far ahead in publishing papers and everything else. So, like Bangladesh, most of the countries are in the same shoes. So, I will draw your attention, sir, that through this collaborative center, let us make the Indian Ocean on the scientific part. We forget about the borders. An ocean of symbol of cooperation, innovation, and also ensure sustainability of the ecosystem what we need. Sir, let me just finish by saying that our ministries of finance and others, they are all for GDP, gross domestic product, which is a idea of 1930s. But these days, I think we must look into GDP plus ecological footprint. Until and unless we improve our ecological footprint in the Indian Ocean, we may, for example, produce a lot of products like, say, apple and everything, but this is going to have worms or insects inside. So we have a lot of challenges, sir, and I can assure you that ISNDO becomes a subcommission, maybe by 3-4 months' time. We'll definitely get in touch with you as well as your collaborative center, along with other countries, and we need to probably program and look forward so that our ecological system, we are old, sir, will be gone, but our future generation, future scientists who are sitting in front of you, I can see the lots of heads. It is for them we must ensure the ecological footprints of the Indian Ocean remains as good as it should be, as the Ocean Decade desires it to be. With
Thank
that, let me conclude. Thank you, sir, for including me as the panelist. We are grateful to the DCC Center, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Admiral. Definitely we will work together in the coming years and decade. And next I request maybe Dr. Ando. So please tell us about IOC Westpac role in the Ocean Decade actions, as well as how do you think about or see about the Indian Ocean Regional Framework engage with the IOC Westpac?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I sent my PowerPoint file, and could you please project or not?
Yeah, we can project.
Okay, thank you very much. So I summarized the actions by Westpac for the UN Ocean Decade. So my slide is projected or not yet?
Just 1 second, Ken.
Okay.
Please hold on.
Yeah.
Yes, we have your slides.
Okay, thank you very much. So first slide, I indicate the list of actions for UN Ocean Decade by Westpac. And left one is the actions by countries for China, Thailand, and Indonesia, and Philippines, so on. So we conducted several actions in 2021 to 2022. And on the right is very major events hosted by Thailand. We conducted a big event in 2021 by remote, and we broadcasted this event, and we could have more than 3,000 participant viewers. During the event, we could share high-level commitment from high-level officers of various member states of Westpac, and as well as the plenary sessions. Experts in the region conducted 17 UN Ocean Decade incubators. And the next, please. Second one, please. And as a result, second slide, please. So second slide is shown.
Yes.
Okay. So, and as a result, the subcommission could develop 4 program projects. Among 4, UN 24 is decade program, and the others are decade projects. UN 24 is an observation-based research program focused on Kuroshio and its adjacent regions. UN 23 is accelerating capacity development in the region through networking RTRC, Regional Training Research Center. UN 22 is a marine plastic emissions through Asian rivers. UN 21 will provide a platform to promote marine spatial planning in Asia. And one click, please. And by using the opportunity of UN Ocean Decade Regional Conference, which will be held in April 2024, next year, and also just after 10 days of Global UN Ocean Conference in Spain. And we plan to have the incubators and also workshops to develop and promote UN Decade Ocean Program and project from the region. So we expect to have more Decade Program and project via such incubators and workshops. And next slide, please. Yes, this is the conference and UN Ocean Decade Regional Conference. And next please. Okay, so this is a full pictures of relations among UN Decade challenges and the current and existing Westpac program, project, working groups, RTRCs on the right. Right hand is a list of current program working groups of RTRC and the Westpac, and now we have 29 as a total. The subcommission grouped these into 4 categories according to the Westpac key areas of actions. These key areas of actions are, of course, linked to the 7 societal outcomes. in UN Ocean Decade. So that is, I think, the answer to the first question. So thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing my slide. Please stop.
Thank you,
sharing.
Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ken.
And also, second question, I think you asked me for the kind of for the Westpac. I think some PIs of IOC Westpac actions, which include program project working groups, has used or will use the Indian Ocean regional frameworks as necessary. So it depends how these frameworks are useful for PIs. So in some cases, some frameworks have been used to develop actions by PIs of Westpac field. Yeah, that is my answer. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Now, next I request Dr. Justin. I have two questions. Please tell us about IOC Africa's role to the Ocean Decade actions, as well as how do you see that Indian Ocean regional framework engage with the IOC Africa? Justin?
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Secretary Moise. Honorable Dr. Ravichadan, I should confess that it is always a good experience to interact with you and your team. And I should also note that the huge expansion of INCOIS this last decade is just amazing. And it is not surprising that today we are inaugurating the UN Decade Collaborative Center for the Indian Ocean region located at INCOIS. Now to the question, IOC Africa stands for the IOC Subcommission for Africa and adjacent island states, including countries on the Western Indian Ocean, which shows the link between IOC Africa and ICNDO. And I should say that in the context of the UN Decade, IOC Africa organized its kickoff meeting in May 2022, and the chairman of ICNDO was invited to attend, but due to conflictual agenda, he could not. This is to indicate that there is already a strong collaboration between ICNDO and IOC Africa that the center can build on. Secondly, I should say that the regional planning group for the UN Decade, known as the Africa UN Decade Task Force, has been established. The UN Decade Roadmap for Africa has been also developed. And it is expected that the IOC Africa Secretariat based in Nairobi will host the UN Decade Coordinating Center for Africa. And in this context, there is a plan to develop a major program in the context of the UNESCO flagship program for the Priority Africa, that Africa is within UNESCO and IOC. And to complete the picture, to give you a full picture, I should also indicate that IOC Africa program of the decade align with the African Union Vision 2063, the African Union 2050, Africa's Integrated Maritime Strategy, and African Decade of Sea, as well as the African as well as the two regional conventions in Africa standing for the Abidjan and Nairobi Convention. So these are the framework that can support the UN Decade in Africa and with which we can find synergy with ICNDO and the newly established UN Decade Collaborative Center. So that is for the first question, sir.
Thank you. So next one, how we can collaborate with the IOC Indian Ocean region, especially for the IOC Africa framework.
Okay, I should say that I'm very comfortable to speak about that because, again, I should reiterate that the UN Decade Collaborative Center for Indian Ocean is really well located, I should say, in the hub of ocean science, research and technology with world-class facility that INCOIS hosts. In addition to that, as a hub, as Srinivas have said earlier, INCOIS have also hosted the UNESCO Category 2 Center, standing for the International Training Center for Operational Oceanography, the Global Teaching Academy, as well as the Tsunami Center. All these excellent facilities are strong pillars on which the Decade Collaborative Center can build on. And we are happy to say that in the context of the ICNDO reactivation process, INCOIS has been a key partner hosting several ICNDO section and reactivation meeting, as well as National Coastal Center and NIUT in Chennai. So here, the key point I want to make here is that there are all the ingredients there in the region, in particular in India, which is one of the leading countries for the ICNDO strategic program, such as ICNDO Coastal Vulnerability Framework Program. And as you may know, African countries also face challenges of coastal vulnerability. Yesterday, I was interacting with one of a fellow that you all may know, Dr. Cindy Tuton, who was in NOAA, acting as a manager for RAMA program, IOGUS, and so forth. And he just flagged out to me that today, all the countries are becoming vulnerable. So the Indian Ocean Vulnerability Program is a platform through which ICNDO and IOC Africa, with the support of all the excellent research facility in UNCOIS, in addition to the UN Decade Regional Center, can work through. Secondly, there are also, in terms of ocean observation, data management, data assimilation, and so forth, IOGUS, which is a vibrant program in the region, can partner together with GOOS Africa program. And I'm very familiar to INCOIS and fellow in India, so I know that there are already ongoing collaboration there, and several African students and mid-career professionals are happy to attend meeting in INCOIS and in Chennai. So we need to pursue this effort. And in the region, the countries that are very active in the capacity development program and in the coastal vulnerability program are notably Qatar, Bangladesh, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. So we will be working together in the context of the reinforced ICNDO, which is now elevated at the level of subcommission to bring more partners in the region. And I should also point out that IOIU2 is a vibrant program in the region with the Secretariat also based in INCOIS. So here, the point is to flag that, again, the Decade Center is located in the place where it can build its own development on the existing facility at INCOIS. Lastly, I should say that the added value here is that we should seek for synergy. We should seek for partnership. We should seek for joint activity, including with IORA, with SPREP, with Bay of Grangola Intergovernmental Organization Program. So all these are already strong pillars that will support the growth, the development of the newly established Decade Center. So my last take-home message will be that the center is not expected to reinvent the wheel. As I said, there are world-class facilities at the location there in Inkois and throughout the country. So the challenge will be here to foster partnership, synergy, mutual reinforcement, and in particular, all this facility and the center will strongly support the development of the new subcommission of Central Indian Ocean. And finally, I would like again to congratulate you and thank you again, Secretary Moise, for associating us with this exciting undertaking and for your personal continuous engagement and support to the ICNDO. And I should not forget also our good friend, Dr. Shailesh Nayak, and the director of INCOS, and with his team, Uday and all, who has always been supportive to ICNDO, working late night, working early in the morning, and the ministry providing in-kind and financial resources to support ICNDO. I wish successful achievement to the center. We are here to serve, and we shall. Thank you very much, Honorable Secretary Moise.
Thank
dear
you.
colleague. Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Justin. Maybe we will separately we will have a meeting with DCC IOR as well as IOC Africa. I request next Nick Adamo. Nick, I think you have been very closely involved in several of the Indian Ocean region activities in the region, especially IOGOOS, Cyber, Indian Ocean Regional Panel, as well as Indus Resource Forum, and IIV2, and so on. How do you think we can have a leverage the strength of this initiative to enhance the activities of the IOR DCC and the UN Decade?
Well, Dr. Ravichandran, first of all, greetings and congratulations again in overseeing this fantastic achievement of the centre in India. So in response to your question, are you hearing me okay? Yes. Yeah. In response to your question, I'd like to answer by posing a question which has an implied ulterior motive. What I would ask is, how does or could the Indian Collaborative Centre for the Decade, how could it advise or suggest or consider that the UN Decade could best embrace the 25-year-long development of the family of Indian Ocean alliances, which currently do and plan to continue their work of clear and critical relevance to the UN Decade's mission? And I'm referring to the new IOCINDIO subcommission, its collegiately related IOGOOS, IORP, the Indian Ocean Region Panel of Climate and Ocean Science, Physical Oceanographic Science, Cyber, the Biogeochemically Kindred Alliance to the IORP, the Indian Ocean Observing System Resources Forum, the Indian Ocean Global Ocean Observing System, and a program which tends to embrace and overarch all of these, which is the Second International Indian Ocean Expedition. I use this question as a segue to suggest that the that the Decade Collaborative Centre, which we're celebrating today, should, in my view, facilitate the IIOE2 continuing its current 10-year tenure, which is 2015-2025, to continue to the end of the decade's tenure, the UN Decade's tenure of 2030. And this could be done by beginning with supporting the planning meeting that's planned for this purpose, to examine a continuance of the IIOE2's tenure out to 2030. And that meeting's being planned under hosting by the INCOIS through the IIOE2 Project Office in November of this year. The progressive upshot would be a collegiate and materially relevant working relationship between the Decade Collaborative Centre, the UN Decade per se, and the Second International Indian Ocean Expedition's overarching collegiate family of IOCINDIO-related IORP, Cyber, and IRF.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Ravi.
And next, I request Dr. Shailesh Naik. of course, former Secretary, Ministry of Earth Sciences, as well as the Director of NIAS. So how do you think, sir, in Indian experience will contribute to the ocean decade in the Indian Ocean region? And also, what are the frontiers as well as at horizon ocean initiatives that we may see in the mainstream during the ocean decade?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Ravichandran. I think India's ocean program started with the basic idea that it should be inclusive development, it should be socially relevant and ecologically secured. So that's the basic thing which we started. And we have seen many of my previous speaker also said about the services which we have been providing to the people like the fishers, to the common people for the tsunami, and this is not restricted only to India but many other countries in the region. So I would like to say there are three main aspects. One is the understanding the science and building the various services, including for the warning system, for a tsunami, for cyclone, we have for the coastal floods, we are developing for the sea level rise, and coral reef, harmful algal blooms. There are many such services which are already been built. And this is built on the base of the science which we have understood. The second, we have a very strong program on monitoring of various ecosystem health. Like mangroves, we have been monitoring every 2 years. We have a coral reef monitoring program. We have a shoreline, every year monitoring of a shoreline. We have about 24 locations on the Indian coast, which the water quality is monitored for last 30 years. So we have those detailed monitoring program of the various, which are indicator of the ecosystem health very well. The third, we are trying to put all this as a part of the information system, not only the physical or biogeochemical or chemical, but also the what we are developing is ocean biogeographical information system, and currently about 150,000 species information is already available and available for everybody to use it. The next which we are trying to do is building the climate services. Also we have a specific area for the small islands, there are many small islands in the Indian Ocean, and we have services which we provide to our Lakshadweep and Andaman Nicobar Island is also one thing. And all this, like what we have been talking about now, marine and coastal spatial planning, we have for last 30 years what we call as construction setback lines, and the coastal zone management plans for the entire country is available. And this is being monitored regularly. The coastal ecosystems are monitored regularly, and every decade that the system is reviewed and done. So that experience also we have. We talked about the observing system also. But this is one part which is essentially a science related. But there are two other important parts which India can offer. One is about the social system. The understanding about the various aspects, let's say inequality or the education requirement or the gender related issues, the migration related issues, and what kind of a governance structure which you may need to address some of these issues also we can offer. And lastly, about the most important, that many times, even if you have both these things, the understanding about the science and also the governance system, but if the human consciousness or the human awareness is not in the communities is not there, all this also fails. So we also have to learn the way how we communicate the benefits of science to people. And I think this is very important part, that the strategy to communicating science is also, so in all the three aspects, the knowledge system, the social system, as well as the human system, in all the three, India could be very happy to support in the process, India will be able to learn many other things which we may be able to implement in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, very valuable information. So the last one, I think Professor Nadia will be talking about, especially hazard related for the DCC. Just 1 or 2 minutes, it is recorded one. What is her views on this? I know everybody is eagerly waiting for this other.
Hello, this is Nadia Pinardi from University of Bologna and the director of the Ocean Decade Collaborative Center for Coastal Resilience. I'm sorry I could not be with you today. I hope this presentation will engage you in working together. The main mission of the Decade Collaborative Center is to strengthen the connection between the new science and technology developed in the Ocean Decade and coastal stakeholders implementing innovative co-design practices for coastal resilience. By 2050, more than 2 billion people will live in the world's low-lying coastal zone. Coastal resilience is the capacity of the socioeconomic and natural systems to cope with coastal risks and hazards by adapting while maintaining the coastal system essential functions. The UN Decade Collaborative Center plans to match the coastal practitioner needs with the UN Decade New Science for Coastal Resilience. Our strategic plan has found 4 objectives. 1, improve science information for all. 2, enhance stakeholder engagement, promote equitable education, and uphold environmental justice for coastal communities as the 4 major points to increase coastal resilience. But we have also some cross-cutting activities that we would like to carry out. First, engage with the Global South, increase awareness of the community of practice of the UN Decade on ecosystems and community resilience, engage into the action of Cities with the Ocean, that is a program of the decade, the Global Coast Experiment, which I'll explain to you in a few seconds, and then the Ocean Decade Vision 2030. I will start talking about the Ocean Decade Vision 2030 because this is a collaborative effort between our 2 DCC, the DCC Coastal Resilience and DCC Indian Ocean region. So we are writing a white paper on the increased resilience to coastal hazards. Resilience has been already found to be a key characteristics to map across the world ocean. And this new special report of the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction already shows the urgent action that is needed to build resilience into every decision we make. So, together with Dr. Srini Kumar, the director of DCC Indian Ocean region, we are building this white paper where we concentrate on information needs for coastal resilience, how to measure coastal resilience, and multi-hazard risk assessment, reduction, and governance. The DCCCR also contributes to the Cities with the Ocean. Cities are a key location for solving resilience where most population live and will live. So we will create together a platform to connect coastal cities and decade actions, assess the needs of the coastal cities, and develop ocean science toolbox. We have already an appointment, which is a town hall meeting at the Ocean Sciences meeting, where we have several actually few coastal cities to meet with the large science community. But the most important activity up to date has been the one of launching the Global Coastal Ocean Experiment, where we will demonstrate with the international community, a fit-for-purpose coastal observing and prediction system that delivers innovative products for coastal resilience. DCCR contributed to the launch, and here you see an idea of where about 20 regions where we will try this innovative technology. So in conclusion, the DCC and DCO network will help to build the next generation infrastructure for UNESCO UC contribution to Sustainable Development Goals. DCC Coastal Resilience is ready to do the last mile, increase coastal resilience for a prosperous and more equitable future of human society. Please join, get in touch, see our web space, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you all panelists for your views and suggestions and comments for the DCC IOR. Of course, you all know that it is, though it is an Indian Ocean region, but of course the ocean is one ocean. It is a global ocean. Like India G20 presidency, we always think about one earth, one family, and one future. And it is also now one ocean. So we need to work together for the common cause. With this, I close this panel's discussion. So we will go from ocean to moon back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Dr. TVS Udaybhaskar, Scientist and Division Head INCOIS, to deliver the vote of thanks.
I think people are all eagerly waiting for the moon landing, to see our shuttle landing on the moon. So I just want to thank all those who are involved in making this particular program a success, particularly those people joining online. Some of them are having their summer vacations, but still they found some time to join online and then share their valuable insights and the collaborations that they can take up with DCC IOR. So hoping that we will take this is the initial step, and we take this much deeper and then try to engage in what all they have talked to us. And then I just thank the panelists for again taking time and then coming over here and then participating in the DCC IOR launch event. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. We'll now take a quick break, and at 6 p.m. we'll meet for Dr. N.K. Panikkar Memorial Lecture and the much-awaited cultural events of the evening. 6:30? Okay. Okay, so we'll make it 6:30 p.m. See you. Okay, 6:15.